Okay, so recapping back to my previous video, everything that happened with the whole physical abuse and the separation, it was during the beginning of September 2016. And so during this time also that everything was going on, or before this, I was going I was doing a lot of job hunting. I was feeling desperate to have income coming in. And so I remember I had applied to a currency exchange near where I lived. And I thank God for this opportunity, for placing the right people at the right time with a kind heart who was willing to give me this chance. Not even having experience in the field. And so anyhow, yes, I did separate from this guy. And although I felt miserable along him, I felt like I was losing myself, I was still holding on to that hope, that false hope that he would just change and that he would appreciate me, and that all he needed was just for us to have a time apart, for him to value me, and the things that I was willing to do for him to self-reflect. And I gave him an ultimatum that I was going to be staying with my parents until he got his act together, and to let go of the things that were holding him and us from going any further. And why I'm saying this was because he, during the times that we were struggling financially, he would take advantage of his baby mama, and he would be asking her for money. He would be asking her for her car, and he would have access to that because she would comply. I don't know exactly how he did it, but I could just imagine now, right? And so I did not want him to rely on her. And I had told him this, that I didn't want him to rely on her anymore because she was not his girlfriend, that I was his girlfriend, and that he needed to rely on me. But that he needed to allow me to work, and for him to go to work as well and get the apartment that we want, or find an apartment for us to live in together, and to let go of the past, to start fresh, to show me that he is willing to be a provider. And so he was not willing to give it up. And I knew it. Deep down, I knew he was not willing to give it up. And I was not telling him that he needed to separate from his kids. If anything, I didn't mind him having a relationship with his kids. I just didn't accept the fact of how he was going about it. And so after a month, on October 31 of 2016, during the separation, I was trick-or-treating along with my best friend. I took my younger brother with, and we were in Oak Park. And little did I know was that coincidentally I was going to see him at that neighborhood where he had pretty much no business being in. And so I seen him driving with his baby mama um, in the passenger seat and his kids in the back. And to me, I find it so, it was a coincidence because out of so many places that they could have gone to trick or treat, they were in the same place where I was at, passing by. And I turned to look at that precise moment to see him. And so I knew that it was time for me to let him go. I knew exactly what he had chosen. And so it was hard for me to let it go. But I relied a lot on obviously drinking and smoking weed to cope. And so anyhow, so because of the situation that I was in with him of being poor, losing my vehicle and just everything, I wanted to get my life back in order. And so I wanted to get myself a car to be able to go to work and whatnot. And so I started working a second job. So I was a full-time employee at the currency exchange, and I started working part-time at FedEx. And during this time, I had met a girl. She was pretty much my trainer on how to load trucks, because that was the line of job that I was placed in. And so she trained me on how to do things quickly. And so me and her became friends. We became really cool friends. We were chilling a lot during working hours. It wasn't something we had after work. And so she was also going through a breakup with her baby mama. She is a lesbian, right? And so she was going through a breakup with her baby mama, and I was obviously going through my breakup, or through the whole breakup of my my ex. And so I remember she had mentioned or offered to me to have something without commitment, to just have fun and have experience. And at first I was really hesitant about it. I was never in a relationship with a girl. I never thought about things to be with, or I had never thought of being with a girl, period. And so I hesitated about it. And so anyhow, I did took it into consideration. It was something I was thinking about, just because I was not looking to have any commitment anymore. I didn't want to be in a relationship. Yet I still wanted to feel cared for. I still wanted to feel loved. And so anyhow, during this time that me and her were talking, I found out that I had an STD. I was positive for chlamydia, and it is something that a scary situation when I came to find out. And I know that a lot of us were taught from school that we need to take care of ourselves and take the extra precautions. But I think a lot of us make the mistake of thinking, well, that's never going to happen to me, right? But it did. It did. And if it happened to me, it can happen to you. Um, and so I um, I took the pills that I needed in order um, to be cured, right? Um, Thankfully, the pills were effective, and I still had to monitor that for, I don't remember, for a brief moment. And after that, I was clean. Um, and so this all happened in the year of 2017. And after that, I ended up losing my job at the currency exchange. And so I wanted to find another job. And so I ended up getting another job um, in the beginning of January of 2018. And as I mentioned before, like me and this girl, it was just something that we were not going to have officially. It was just for the experience. And so during this time, uh, there was a guy who began talking to me through work, and he was a very nice guy, with without that extra load, um, if I want to put it that way. And yes, he was very affectionate, but I just feel like it was not, um, the relationship was not gonna go anywhere. Um, I I don't remember exactly um, how far along we were when he proposed to me. Um, and I just felt like I wasn't ready. I don't know if it was because of the fear of commitment, um, but I just felt like it wasn't the time. Like he could have given me his time, all of his time, because he had no kids. Um, but it just didn't, something was off. I felt as if something was off about him. And so I ended up cutting that relationship. Uh, and after cutting that relationship, um, well, I ended up contacting back the female uh, that I was uh, having unofficial things with, right? And so even before this had happened, during the time that I was in a relationship with this guy, I was, as I mentioned, I was working two jobs. I was working at FedEx, and I started working as a aide for the elderly. And so that was like in the beginning, as I mentioned, in the beginning of January of 2018. And I think it was a complete blessing to have been a part of their lives, because the male figure that I was caring for, he knew that I was working two jobs, and he kept insisting for me to go back to school. And he would often tell me, "So what are you doing in order to um, to get your education? Like, what have you been thinking about?" And it was something that he kept reminding me over and over and over again. And before this had happened, when I was working at the currency exchange, um, I had built a lot of close friendships. And so I remember one of my close friends had mentioned to me that I should consider going to school to become a teacher. And why he said that. Well, he said it because he knew that I loved kids. He knew um, that kids were my thing, right? And so he told me that I would be good um, as a teacher. And to me, I was really skeptical about it at first because I was just like, well, I don't know how to communicate. I don't even know how to teach. Like, no, I don't think I want to do something like that. And so, anyhow, fast forwarding back to when the male figure I was caring for, the elderly, um, I thought about that moment. And so I was just like, you know what? Um, I think I'm gonna consider that. And so I reached out to um, a peer that I remember going to school with back in grammar school, and I knew that she had a child center, and so I was asking her questions for resources and telling her that I was interested in working as a teacher. And so, anyhow, I ended up enrolling back to school to become a teacher for early childhood. And so I was very grateful to have worked for the elderly for the short period of time that I was with them, because I learned, or better yet, I was pushed, I was driven to go back to school to uh, have something for myself. And so, anyhow, by April of 2018, I started my first employment at a child center. It was a Christian based child center from um, the girl I had reached out to in regards to the resources of becoming a teacher. And so I am grateful to her because she provided me with that opportunity without even having any experience with children. And so, with that being said, I felt like everything was finally falling into place. Um, and it was through this child center that I was being reminded of stories of the Bible, like Noah and the ark, or Jonah and the whale, uh, David and Goliath. And um, I think my interest started increasing even more in that aspect. And so also, as I mentioned, uh, when I was in I was no longer in the relationship I was with. Um, I was no longer in the relationship with the male I was with. And I did contact the girl that I was talking to. Um, and we end up becoming official on July of 2018. So on January of 2018, I was working for the elderly, and I was in the relationship with this male. And then by like May, I ended the relationship, and I started dating this girl in July. And so after that had happened, um, everything was going good. The relationship was good. I ended up switching jobs. I found another opportunity at a different child center. And so, anyhow, finally I felt like I had everything going for myself. I had a good job. I was going to school, and I had somebody who respected me, who genuinely cared for me. And somehow, some way, deep within me, I still felt empty. I still felt like there was, like I was still incomplete. And so, yes, I admit that with her, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about um, the importance of family. Uh, that was something she was faithful about. Um, and so she inspired me to grow a relationship with my parents. Um, and also because of the college courses that I was taking for early childhood that was um, in like relationships and communication, um, understanding uh, parents and whatnot. I learned how to communicate. Um, I learned how to communicate my feelings. I learned to appreciate my parents, um, and the value that she had taught me as I watched her, her values with her family, with the family she had, along with her baby mama. It 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 was admiring for me. Although I was not fully accepting the fact that she wanted to have a conjoined family. She wanted um, for us to just be all a family, for me to be along with her and her baby mama with her partner and just be there for one another for the sake of the daughter that was not even biologically hers. Um, Yet she was there from the beginning of the child's birth. And so she wanted to stick through it. She didn't want to leave or abandon the child. And so I didn't blame her for that. I didn't blame her for that. I just didn't agree with the fact that we had to conjoin families. Um, and so that's what brought a lot of disagreements among one another and altercations because regardless the issues that her baby mama was having along with her partner would come into our relationship. And so there was a time where I was I was just fed up. I was fed up with having to deal with um, accepting the extra. Uh, I wouldn't know how to say it. The extra. I don't want to call it baggage, but the extra the extra load of um, accepting the other family um, that I was not getting along with, that I had no relationship with. Um, and so, as I mentioned, um, so during this time that these altercations were going on, um, and the still having that desire in my heart um, to seek God, it was increasing more and more. And I remember there was a time where she and I had a disagreement, and I was crying. I was crying and asking the Lord, like, Lord, is this all there is to life? I'm unhappy. And I remember that I was listening to this song at the time that I was crying called Spirit Lead Me. And so I started proclaiming that on my life. And I was just surrendering my life and telling God, God, just lead me. Wherever it may be, just lead me. I am done following the desires of my heart. And so in September 1st, 2019, I began going to church. I had reached out to my godmother once more, and I had told her if I could go to church with her, and she agreed to take me with her. And it was the time that I felt I was at peace. I was at peace. I felt like I was finally at a place where I needed to be. Like a child running to the arms of the Father. And so little by little, I started feeling different as I started going to church, and learning the Word of God. And little by little, I started feeling convicted of the lifestyle I was living in, being with a girl, knowing that that is something that unpleased God. And so I ended the relationship with this girl that I was with for nearly 3 years. I ended it a month after consistently going to church. So I started church September 1st, 2019, and by October 7th, 2019, I had told her that I wanted to pursue the relationship with God further. And so the life that we were living together was not something that pleased him. And so it hurted her tremendously. And I think a part of her was understanding, because when I was going to church during the month of September, she noticed transformation within me. She noticed that I was more at peace, that I was happier, that I was no longer looking unhappy. And I remember this because this is something that me and her would talk about. And so she never stopped me from going to church. Or first, better yet, she never forced me to stop going to church. She, if anything, admired me going to church, and she liked the transformation she was seeing within me. And so, however, it still broke her heart that I decided to end the relationship after being, with one another for 3 years. And so anyhow, I'm gonna stop right here and continue on with the next video. So just give me a moment.